These times are strange, it's quite surreal. It's never been like this. Remember in the good old days when we could hug and kiss. We'd pack the gyms and restaurants and move through public settings. We'd give high fives and drink at dives, hold hands and dance at weddings. Now the days are longer, yet they're darker in a way. We're pressing pause on normalcy, just going day by day. But we can still make jokes and art, garden, dance and sing, cook, read books, try on fun looks and learn about new things. We can talk with friends of ours and have a heart to heart, just so long as we'll stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you, 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical, so step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 6 Feet Apart Productions. We're so thrilled and excited you're here and really grateful to all the support. Hello to everybody watching on YouTube. Tell us where you're from. Tell us who you are, because we can't tell. And obviously put loads of comments in the chat because the storytellers will go back and they'll read them afterwards. So please do that. It's lovely. Now, before we start our show, we always like to show you a few of our backstage audience. So welcome to everybody in the backstage. If you'd like to wave. Hi. Got a lovely backstage audience. So lovely to have you here. Thank you. And now what we're going to do is for our show, as usual, what we do is we're going to, got 4 storytellers, all going to tell a story. And before they tell their story, we're going to bring them on and just find out a little bit more about them. Going to interview them and hopefully it'll tell us things that we don't already know. So, and then they'll tell their story, which, as you know, it's a new spin on an old story. So they're going to take a story, hopefully that is known and loved, and maybe turn it on its head, place it somewhere else, have some exciting things happen. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so let's get straight on with the show. First up is a storyteller who's been on our show before, and we do love him. He's told stories from Washington, D.C. to India. He's performed in theatres, in arts museums, camps and churches and nightclubs, really anywhere that will listen to his stories. He also believes that traditional tales are much too much fun to be limited to kids. So we agree with him. And so he seeks out adults to share them with. And we just are so thankful because we love his stories. The Washington Post, no less, has called his methodical manner and quiet wit a refreshing change of pace. So if anybody hasn't worked out who I'm talking about, it's the lovely Tim Araneta. And you can find out more about him on his website, timaraneta.com. So please give a very warm welcome to our virtual stage to Tim Araneta. So welcome, Tim. How are you?
I'm good, Claire. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Yeah. So now, where are you telling from this evening?
I'm in Berkeley, California.
You are. You're just over the bridge from us, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Nice to have somebody on this side of the country. Now, Tim, during this pandemic, I don't know, not everybody knows this, but if they follow you on Instagram, you have made a real thing about masks, and you have loads of different masks, don't you? And you must have a vast collection.
I do. And some of them I made from arts and crafts. And I figured that if I'm going to put a selfie on Instagram, why not dress up? And people have been actually sending me masks. Here's a paper one that Claire Murphy in Ireland found in a gift shop, and she sent it to me.
Oh, fabulous.
A lovely mask. So whatever I have lying around, whether it's recycled cardboard tubes or some kitchen twine, I'll glue it together and put myself on Instagram wearing it.
So tell us, what's your Instagram handle, and people can go and have a look?
It is at storyteller_Tim.
At storyteller _Tim. Go and look Tim up and follow him on Instagram because he's brilliant. Lots of lovely, interesting masks. I just love it. And now, Tim, my second question is, can you tell us about either a memorable or funny or bizarre or weird time that you told a story?
I once got a commission from a science museum to tell stories as part of their exhibit. The exhibit was Grossology, the disgusting behavior of human anatomy. And they asked if I could tell traditional tales about urination, defecation, vomiting, and mucus. And I said, of course I can.
You're a man, aren't you?
I didn't have those stories at the time, but I went out and found them and put together a show just for that exhibit. Oh,
how funny. I once bought my son a book all about horrible, disgusting things, and not like any other normal boy. He said he wouldn't even open the cover. I thought it was hilarious, but no, he wouldn't even read it with me. Oh, but that's brilliant. I would have loved to have been there. I would have been very appreciative in the audience. Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you. Good to get to know some interesting facts about you. Now, everybody sit back. And Tim, prepare yourself. We're going to get ready for Tim's story, which is called Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum.
Once upon a time, there was a very lonely giant who wanted nothing more than to make friends. He had a friend once, but that was a long time ago. So what's he up to nowadays? How is he trying to get people to like him? Well, let's check in with him now and see how he's doing. Yes, it's only a paper moon sailing over a cardboard sea, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you'd believe in me. Oh, it's only a canvas sky floating over a muslin sea, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you'd believe in me. Hey, YouTube, how are you doing? Thanks for tuning in to episode 193 of Living Large with Giant Tom. I'm the giant. I'm Tom. I'm living large. Big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Love you guys. Thanks everyone to subscribe and likes my videos. But hey, I got to get real for a minute here. I've been really down this week, and I got to tell you why. A lot of you saw my unboxing video, my video log number 188 I posted 2 weeks ago. That was fun when I unboxed the hen that laid the golden eggs, and I named her Claudia. I mean, you guys adored it. That's like my most liked video here on YouTube. So I appreciate the love. And somebody came into my house this week and stole the hen. She's gone. I don't know where and I don't know who, but that's low. That is low, people. And it's one of you out there, right? It's someone who knew I had the hen that laid the golden egg. So I'm just saying, if you are out there and you happen to see on TikTok or Snapchat someone else showing off Claudia, I'd appreciate a little jingle. You can DM me and listen. I'll get through it. I'm just having some feelings right now. I'll get through it because it's like Dorothy Fields and Jerome Kern said, nothing's impossible I have found, for when my chin is on the ground, I take a deep breath, dust myself off, start all over again. Hey, everybody, I'll see you for next week's episode. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you no matter what size you are. I hope you are living large. And we're out. Fee, fi, and fo, and fum, fee, fi, fo, fee. You can come out of hiding, kid. I can smell you. Yeah. As a giant, my olfactory bulb's the size of a goose egg. I know exactly where you're hiding. There's no point to thank you for, yeah. No, I never forget a smell, and I know you've been here before. Jack. Did you come to apologize? Or did you come to create content? Is there some new TikTok challenge to torment a giant? Unbelievable. I can't believe you're a content creator. I mean, Jack, you have friends. You don't need to be on your screen all day. You have actual friends. No, I don't have any friends. I mean, unless you count the internet little hearts and likes, which I do. Thank you very much. Yes, 1,238 dedicated subscribe. 1,237 dedicated subscribe. I guess someone was offended by the, oh, that was probably you unsubscribing. Okay, look. Yes, I know how to make friends. I've made friends before. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that story from your mother. But yeah, of course, I know your mother. She and I, we go, wait, she never told you? About me and your dad? Okay, kid, listen, I got a story for you. Once upon a time, there was a really lonely kid giant. Okay, it was me. I was the lonely kid giant, right? And as a giant, I never had any friends. By the time I was 6, I was towering over the other kids. They were afraid of me. They called me Bigfoot. They called me Moon Scraper. They called me Brachiosaurus. Okay, well, you know the one, there's always one dinosaur obsessed kid. I mean, the names didn't bother me. It's just no one wanted to play with me. By the time I was 8, I was working in the fields with the other farmers because I could pull the same amount of load as a draft horse. But then one day, I'll tell you what happened. A centaur came to town. Oh, this was a horrible beast. No, they're extinct now. So, okay, it doesn't surprise me. You don't know what a centaur is. Okay, imagine a billy goat, but with tusks and horns that swivel, and it's the size of a hippopotamus. No, I'm not making this up. It actually came to our village. It was terrorizing people, and it chased this kid up a tree, and nobody knew what to do, but I was the only one big enough and strong enough to wrestle the thing and drop kick it into a ravine. So for that day, I was a hero. And the next day, this kid who had been trapped up the tree, he came by to be my friend, and he wouldn't leave. And he grew up to be your dad. He was a funny kid. I mean, he made me laugh. The first thing he wanted to know was, Tom, what do giants eat? Do you really crunch on the bones of Englishmen? And I said, where did you hear that? He's like, everybody knows you feast on the bones of Englishmen. I'm like, no, I eat the same thing the draft horses do, oats and hay. How do you think we get so big and strong? I don't know where this blood of an Englishman came from. He wanted to know what strange gods I worshipped. And I said, I go to the same Anglican church your family does. You haven't noticed me up in the choir loft? And then he was always impressed that I'd taken out the centaur. So he's always imagining what I might battle next. He asked me if I could fight a dragon. I'm like, I don't know about a dragon. Well, could you fight a unicorn? Yeah, I could fight a unicorn easy. It's just a horse. Yeah, but it's got a horn. Well, yeah, but that just makes it easier to grab onto. So you just immobilize the creature and you can knock it out with a good solid punch. Not that I would. I'm a pacifist. I wouldn't punch a unicorn. Could you take an ogre? Yeah, I could take an ogre easy. They're pretty dumb. What about 2 ogres? Well, 2 ogres are less intelligent than a single one. So yeah, I could take 2 ogres. Well, what about a pixie? What? A pixie. Could you take a pixie? Like, yeah, I could take a pixie. I could squash a pixie easier than I could squash a beetle. Yeah, but they're crafty. They're smarter than ogres. Yeah, okay, granted, but they're still small. I could just step on them. Doesn't matter how many there are. Okay, but what if, Tom, the pixies like led you into a trap? There was like a canyon and there was a treasure chest at the end and you had to bend down to open the treasure chest. But meanwhile, there was a giant boulder at the top of the canyon and they had a lever under it. And all the pixies put their weight on the lever, which lifted the rock and it fell over the edge and landed in the canyon and squashed you flat. Is there a question in there, Kevin? Or yeah, I'm saying, could you beat them then? Well, not then, but since you've told me their game plan, kid, I think I'm never going to follow a pixie to a second location. So I'm not going to worry about that. Like I said, he was a funny kid. And over the years, when our village got in trouble, whether there was a harpy or a wyvern or a manticore, you have to battle them off and prove I could be a hero. And I knew I was strong enough to take on any kind of mythical creatures and save your dad, save the village. But being big, strong, 19 feet tall doesn't help you if someone has a hole in their heart, a weak aorta, and Sorry you never got to know your dad, Jack. He loved to sing, which I think is why I sing in all my videos. Well, actually, he liked to torment me by singing. My head's so large that I suffer from horrible earworms. Earworms. It's when songs come in and they don't leave because they're wrapped around your brain. But your dad taught me that, I could keep them at bay by bringing in another song, and we came up with this. A fee fi fo fi fum, fee fi fo fum, fee fi fo fum, fee fi fo fum. That could usually hold something off until the next song crept in. Hey, Jack, that gives me an idea. You want to collaborate? We could do a duet. Did you see my episodes 161 through 167 when Rapunzel and I were doing the duets through TikTok? Yeah, I mean, that was pretty popular. I mean, your channel and my channel, we could cross promote. Well, I know we don't have the same taste in music, but I've got hang on, I've got an old Gershwin tune your dad really liked. I could. Oh yeah. This would be a perfect duet for you and me because your dad and I used to sing it. It goes like this. I'm a poached egg without a piece of toast, Yorkshire pudding without a beef to roast. I'm a haunted house that hasn't got a ghost when I'm without you. Each time you wander hither and yonder, I don't know where I'm at. I only know that I'm so lonely. I'm here to tell you that I'm a giant without a thing to boast. Any egghead would have me diagnosed as a poached egg without a piece of toast. Jack? Oh, he's gone. And so's my sack of gold. Oh, yeah, son of a witch. Oh, content creators, can't trust him. He'll be back. Thank you.
Yay!
Woo!
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Just brilliant.
Very funny. Well done.
Oh, Tim, that was excellent. I love that story so much. It's so funny about that like the pixie version of the Raiders of the Lost Ark all planning to get you. And so funny. And I want to know why they always crunch the bones of an Englishman. Why can't it be an American? I'll have to have a word. Thank you, Tim. That's absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
Thank you.
Now, I'm just going to mention a few people who are on YouTube. We've got a first time, a friend of mine called Betsy Fassbinder. Hello, Betsy's got a fabulous podcast, Morning Glory. So go and have a listen to that. That's her first show. Lovely Steph from Story Jams here. She's freezing it up in the frozen tundra of Chicago. She's got a wonderful show called Story Jam. Go and watch that. We've got Lynn from Florida, probably having a lovely time on the beach. And we've even got Tim's father, who I really hope was here listening, traveling in Palm Springs. So really lovely to have you all with us. Keep putting the comments in the YouTube and I can call some other people out later. Right. Thank you, Tim. What a great start to the show. So next up now is somebody who is new to 6 Feet Apart. She hasn't been on our stage before. She comes from, now my pronunciation, I'm just going to say this now for everybody, is really bad, but she comes from an Appalachian family. I really hope I haven't messed that up, and shares the gifts and heritage which has been passed down through the family. She's an award-winning writer, a teaching artist, a certified laughter yoga instructor, isn't that fabulous? An international keynote speaker, a workshop presenter. She's the winner of not one, but 2 National Storytelling Network Oracle Awards. And she's a member of the National Association of Black Storytellers Circle of Elders. And not only that, if that wasn't enough, I don't know how she has any time to actually perform a story. She's just joined the board of the International Storytelling Centre. So we're so thrilled to have Lynn Ford on our show. And if you want to find out more about her, her website is storytellerlynford.com. So let's please give a huge virtual hand to and welcome to our virtual stage, Lynn Ford. So welcome, Lynn. How are you?
Cold. I'm in Ohio.
So is it cold over there then?
It's raining ice right now.
Oh, is it?
You can hear it on the windows, yes.
Oh, actually, it was quite weird here because, California, we've been having 77. And then on Monday or Tuesday, it hailed, just quite weirdly. I don't know why. But it was quite shocking because we don't get that over here.
We get it. You can have it. We don't want it.
I actually miss it in some weird way, just for a very, very short time. Now, Lynn, now we've established where you are. You sometimes do work and you subtitle what you say, some of the stuff you do is a work of heart. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
I put all of my heart into the work that I'm doing, telling for little ones, telling for elders, encouraging people to both speak and write their stories. It comes from my heart. And although people carry stories in their heads, I want them to carry them in their hearts too.
Oh, that's really nice. Lovely. And also, Lynn, have you got like a funny or memorable or bizarre, or probably not quite the same as Tim's, but storytelling event that you went to or happened to you that you could share with us?
A corporate organization asked me to come and speak. They didn't tell me that I was going to be in the bar at the hotel and that no one was going to be sober. And a musician and I, a fellow playing the guitar, we were the only two that were up at the stage area. Everybody else was near the bar. And we finished. Our spouses listened. And when we were done, we got paid. And then a gentleman said to us, "What were you doing up there?"
Oh, how funny.
And I said, "Singing songs and telling stories." And he said, "Oh, if I'd have known that, I'd have stopped drinking." But the show was over, so that was it.
Oh, how funny. It must be like what stand-up comedians always have to do that, don't they?
Yes.
If they're listening, though, a drunk audience is very rewarding, isn't it? Because they laugh a lot.
They laugh a lot, but they don't know what's going on, apparently.
Oh, well, how funny. Well, hopefully we're not all, well, I'm certainly not drunk. Hopefully our audience will all listen. So sit back, get ready to listen to Lynn, and she's going to tell her story, which is entitled Silver and Gold. So let's welcome to our stage, Lynn Ford.
Thank you. You may know which story this is, but I don't know that you heard it shared in this way. This is the story that doesn't end with happily ever after. You see, Aspasia was a kind girl, and the fairy for whom she worked for just a little while rewarded her for that. The fairy touched her lips, and each time Aspasia opened her mouth to speak, coins of silver and gold fell from her mouth. She giggled diamonds. She horked up rubies. And more coins, more silver, more gold. And when people saw Aspasia vomiting money, they'd say, "Oh, how lucky she is. How fortunate she is. She will never want for anything." Of course, she did want for something. She asked herself, "How can I know if someone loves me for me, when all they do is stare at my mouth and put a bucket under my chin? How can I enjoy any kind of food or drink when everything tastes like gemstones and metal and I can't swallow? If I hiccup, out pops a diamond and it has cut my throat and my tongue. How can I be sure any relationship is good when the only reason for conversations and laughter every day are to make an income from me?" All those how can I's bothered her, but especially one: how can I whisper words of love, sigh after a kiss, exclaim in passion, knowing that my lover is keeping a bag nearby and ready. Once Aspasia had sneezed during an intimate moment and nearly put out her lover's eye. And he picked up the coin and looked at it with the eye that could see and said, "Thank you." And once, in the throes of passion, Aspasia had spit coins into her lover's face, and he stopped what he was doing. He stopped what he was doing, picked up every coin, and left. After a while, Aspasia grew very silent. She didn't talk to anyone. She stayed in her chambers, in her castle. Yes, she had a castle. Why live in a hovel when you can afford a castle? But she didn't talk to anyone. Still, she would have happily lived in a hovel if she knew that the one who lived there with her truly loved her. Now, there were folks in that castle. Her parents had died long ago, but she had servants and counselors and guards. There were tenant farmers and their families who worked in the fields, musicians, poets, dancers, storytellers, and Aspasia gave subsistence to every one of them in some way. But she never felt like any of them really cared for her. She wrote notes to all of them, and at night she would sit in her gilded rocking chair and rock herself and sing lullabies to herself. And as she sang, her tears turned to diamonds, and the words of the lullaby became wet coins in her lap and around her feet. And then Aspasia would go to bed, and sometimes she would dream, and sometimes she would snore and nearly gag herself to death with everything that was coming up in her throat. This was not wonderful. This was not a gift. This was not a blessing. Finally, desperate for this curse to go away, Aspasia decided to find the fairy who had given it to her. 2 guards were summoned, and she gave them a note. On the note she had written, "You'll find the fairy near the farm where I worked for Livia and her mother before I worked for the fairy. Pour a small bowl of milk and place it near the gate that leads on the path up to the farmhouse door. Listen for something that sounds like a mewling kitten. And at sunset, the fairy will appear. You can't see her until the light changes, and you'll know she's the one that I need because of her tiny yellow eyes and her long, dripping nose. Catch her carefully and place her in the bag that I have given you and bring her to me. Make sure the bag stays shut, and whatever you do, do not ask her for anything. Do not accept any gift from her, even though she offers it for the milk that you gave her. Do not accept anything. There could be dire circumstances. Do you understand?" She wrote all that because she didn't want to make more money. It took 3 months for the guards to return, and one wore donkey's ears instead of the ears that he'd worn at birth, and one held his mouth pursed tightly in a funny way. Well, Aspasia looked at him and quickly wrote a note that asked, "Did you wish for something?" He nodded, sighed, and toadstools flew from his mouth and hit the plush carpet, and Aspasia was trying to figure out what was he trying to get, that would make toadstools come from his mouth. Still, she hugged him, and she hugged the one with donkey's ears, and she took the bag that one carefully held. And she gave them a note to take to the kitchen, where they would get a good meal that day and every day for the rest of their lives. But she knew when they'd reach the kitchen because she heard a pot or pan hit the floor, clang, and she heard the cook scream, "You've got donkey's ears!" Well, she had other things to worry about. She locked the chamber door. She made sure all that the windows were locked. And then she opened that bag, and out popped the fairy. The fairy with those yellow eyes, like tiny cat's eyes. The fairy with the long, dripping nose. "Ah, it's you," said the fairy. "I thought it would be you. In need of another wish, dearie?" Aspasia shook her head. "Well, is there something that you want?" Aspasia nodded. She wondered if she should write a note to the fairy, but before she could pick up her pen again, the fairy said, "You don't have to write a note. I know what you want. You want me to take away what I have given you, correct?" Aspasia nodded. She fell to the floor. She pleaded, "Please." And a ruby horked out onto the plush carpet. "Very well, then," said the fairy, and she walked on her tiny feet over to Aspasia. Aspasia sat down in a chair, not knowing what to expect. The fairy reached up and patted Aspasia on her kneecap, and then the fairy bit Aspasia, and it stung more than any insect sting, and Aspasia cried out, "Ouch!" But that was the only thing that fell from her mouth. She wanted to thank the fairy, but the fairy was already flying toward a window, and Aspasia went and opened the window. The fairy flew out, and in the darkness, her little yellow eyes looked like tiny fireflies. But Aspasia heard her ask, "Do you think I should take away the gift I gave Livia? The gift of frogs and toads and eels coming from her mouth?" And Aspasia said, "Oh, yes, please, that would be such a kind thing to do." The fairy said, "You're still a kind girl," and she flew away into the darkness. Now, Aspasia thought about Livia and the torture that Livia had gone through, and how her food might taste, and how her conversations might end. And she hoped that when the fairy went to Livia and her mother, they had enough sense not to wish for anything else, to just put the bowl of milk there by the gate and not wish for anything. After a while, Aspasia sent a note. She told the guards, "Take this note to Livia and her mother. Invite them here for a fine meal," but they never came. After a while, Aspasia did find someone who loved her, but they didn't live in a hovel. She'd spewed out so much wealth that she and her husband and eventually their children could live off of it for the rest of their lives. And there was still enough to provide for the tenant farmers and their families and all those who worked for Aspasia, and she served them well, just as they served her. She told a fairy tale to her children eventually, kind of a fairy tale, about a girl who was taken in by a greedy woman and her unkind daughter who never wanted to do any work, and how she had wept, for they treated her the way Cinderella was treated, and they paid her with beatings, and she had sat by the gate crying when a fairy appeared and said, "If you will work for me, I will give you a gift." That's how the whole thing had started. And sometimes Aspasia would just end at the part where the girl threw up gold and silver coins, diamonds and rubies, and her children would say, "Oh, how wonderful." But Aspasia would turn her head so that they would not see the tear that glistened like a diamond. Fortunately, it was just a tear. When Livia and her mother never showed up, Aspasia sent the guards to find them again. It took 3 months for the guards to figure out what had happened, and they brought back a story from the neighbors of that greedy woman and her unkind daughter. It seemed that the neighbors had heard them arguing. They argued all the time, but they grew louder and louder and screamed, talking about should they try to get her to come back, or should they leave another bowl of milk, that they were sick and tired of coughing and choking, and the neighbors didn't know what was happening, but Aspasia heard what the guards said, and she thought of her times speaking silver and gold. The guards said that finally the noise had stopped, and the neighbors, after a couple days, went to see what might have happened, for the cows were lowing, they had not been milked, and when the neighbors came to the farmhouse, the door was open, and there on the floor were 2 dead women. The neighbors found those women buried beneath mounds of silver and gold and diamonds and rubies, and their mouths were filled with coins.
Wow.
Woohoo! Wow.
Well done, Liz.
Fabulous.
Good job.
Lynn, that was excellent. What a great story. And I've never heard of fairy with so much phlegm before. You could have been helping Tim with his story.
Thanks.
Now, if you don't know where that story came from, it's originally a French fairy tale by Charles Perrault named Diamonds and Toads, but Lynn had her own special take on it. Thank you. Now, not only do we have Tim's dad here, we've got his mum too, Eileen. So it's like Tim royalty. And happy watching to everybody else on YouTube. But we're going to carry straight on. So our next teller is the recipient of the National Storytelling Network's Circle of Excellence Award. She's enchanted audience of every age for nearly 30 years. So all I can say, she must have started really young, because she doesn't look old enough, let me tell you. Sickening. She's appeared on PBS's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, been featured in festivals and theatres across the US, plus China, Japan, Senegal, and many others. Her story recordings have won a Parents' Choice Silver Honor Award, a Storytelling World Award, and a National Parenting Publications Award. So she is the award lady. She's the author of A Year in Japan, Folktales, Songs and Art for the Classroom. Now, I'm going to tell you who it is, but I am terrible and I've been practicing. So it's Motoko. And to find out more, Regina's going to put the her website into YouTube, because I'm not going to say it again. Well, I'm going to say it one more time. So let us welcome to our virtual stage, Motoko. I do hope I've said that right.
Yes, you did.
I
Thank you
did.
so much, Claire. Thank you for practicing so hard.
I did. I am really challenged when it comes to people's names. I'm always saying them wrong. So tell us, where are you in the country at this moment?
I'm from Massachusetts, and we're bracing for a major storm.
Yeah, it's been having a lot of storms, haven't you, on the East Coast? Yeah, you really poor things. Well, Hope it doesn't take out your power while we're having a story.
I know.
Now, you've trained, haven't you, in the art of mime with the late and celebrated Tony Montanaro. So tell us a bit about that. How did you do it? Why did you do it? How was it?
When I was in college, I met another mime, and when I saw him do this, I was so enamored. I said, "That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life." But pretty soon I realized, that I got tired of being stuck in this proverbial box. So I got out of the box and started running my mouth. Tony always said that it's not that mimes cannot speak. Of course, mimes can speak. We can do whatever we want to do as long as we are also physically eloquent. So I took his words to my heart, and now I can run my mouth and move around at the same time.
Well, that's fantastic. Excellent. Now, have you got a strange or unusual or funny storytelling moment in your career?
Well, Claire, in my career, I've done my share. Most of my work happened in K through 8 schools. So in my career, I've done my fair share of inner city schools. And one time, I think this was somewhere in a city in Connecticut, where I stepped into this tough eighth graders classroom. I was supposed to do some storytelling and origami, but when I stepped in there, these 25 students were completely unruly and chaotic. Some of them were shouting, running around, talking to each other, throwing things, and the teacher was nowhere to be seen. So I knew that I had to take control of the situation. So I opened my mouth and I thought I was going to say, "Be quiet," or "Please have a seat." But instead, somehow I blurted out, "Once upon a time." And all the students quieted down like magic. I could not believe it. They all turned around and faced me expectantly, and I was like, I had no idea what I was going to do after that. But I captured on the moment I said, "Please have a seat, and I'm going to tell you a story." And after that, they were just so nice. And I told them a story, an old Japanese story about an old man and a dog, the friendship between them. And we made a little origami dog. And many of them came to me afterwards to thank me, like they had never had that much fun in their school. So that was one of my most memorable moments, I think.
So now all teachers got to say, instead of saying "shut up," they've got to say "once upon a time."
Right. It works like magic. You should all try it.
Oh, that's excellent. Top tip there. Okay, so we're all listening anyway. You don't need to quieten us down because we're all avid, ears open, waiting for you. So settle down, everybody. We're ready for Motoko and her story, The 12 Dancing Princesses. Off you go with your story. Thank you.
One child, one wish on a star. Never must she be bound like me. Bright star, be true to your power. Let her be safe and free. Once upon a time, in old China, there was an emperor who loved his wife very dearly. She was perfect in every way, except there was one problem. She had a strange habit of walking in her sleep. Every night around midnight, she would wander through the vast halls of the imperial palace with her eyes wide open. In the morning, she would remember nothing. The emperor, gravely worried, ordered his wife's feet to be bound and wrapped in bejeweled silken shoes. Once her feet were bound this way, her sleepwalking stopped completely, and the emperor and his wife lived happily ever after. Or so the story says. We now know that the practice of foot binding first started in the imperial court and spread across China from the wealthiest nobles to the poorest peasants. Young girls' feet were bound tightly with cotton bandages in order to keep them from growing, sometime between the ages 3 and 8. Tiny, crushed feet with broken arches were the symbol of feminine beauty for nearly 1,000 years. This is a story of a queen who wished to have 12 daughters. Yes, that was her dream. 12 daughters to travel around the world and visit all the places she wished to visit but could not herself because of her bound feet. When the queen gave birth to her first child, the king was bitterly disappointed because it was a girl. The queen, however, was secretly overjoyed and hoped 11 more would follow. She would not conceive again, however, and the king soon lost interest in her. He went off to conquer other territories. The queen named her daughter Princess Bao Bei, precious treasure, and tried to put all her dreams for 12 daughters into this one. When Princess Bao Bei turned 5 years old, it was time, according to the tradition, to have her feet bound. The queen insisted that she do so herself. She wrapped her daughter's feet carefully, not tightly in a traditional way, but loosely enough so as not to break any bones. Every night, she would remove the bandages from her daughter's feet and massage them to soothe the pain. She would sing old love songs and tell her stories from her own childhood. When the Princess Bao Bei turned 12 years old, the queen fell ill. The king was away at a war. One night, the queen called her daughter to her bedside. "I will not be with you much longer," she whispered, "but I have made something special for you." She pointed to her ivory night table, and there the princess saw 12 pairs of silken shoes, iridescently embroidered in red, gold, turquoise, and purple. The princess was speechless by their beauty. "Wait for 12 moons, and you will become a woman," the queen instructed. "When the time comes, wear one pair of shoes each night. Put them on right before you go to bed. Do not tell anyone about this or what happens during the night until you know absolutely that you are ready." Up, 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 up. In a quiet village not too far from the royal palace, there was a cowherd. His name was Da Xing, Strong Spirit. Strong Spirit loved stories. He would even tell stories to his cows as they roamed to seek pasture. One balmy summer afternoon, Strong Spirit came upon an old woman sitting in the grass underneath a big white pine tree. The woman was leaning against the trunk of the tree with her eyes closed. Now, Strong Spirit was kind to every old woman he met, for they reminded him of his mother. So he called out with respect, "Grandmother, are you all right? Would you like some water?" "Thank you, kind young man. I am fine." The old woman peered into his face. "So, I see you are a cowherd. Do you know that old story about the cowherd who married a fairy princess? Yes, I know that story. My mother told it to me when I was a young boy. The cowherd came upon the fairy princess taking a bath in the lake, right? And then he stole her magic robe and made her marry him. Is that right? That's right, the old woman said. Now, do you like that story? I don't know, he thought for a moment. I wouldn't steal from a girl. Very well then, I have a job for you. The old woman pointed north. A 3 days journey will bring you to the royal palace where the king is in desperate need of your help. The king? How? You see, the Princess Bao Bei, his only child, has just become a woman. The old woman completely ignored his blushing. So she sleeps in a locked chamber. Yet every night she goes somewhere, unbeknownst to anyone. Each morning, the servants find a pair of silken shoes by her bedside, completely worn out. The princess absolutely denies ever leaving the room, and the king is livid with frustration. He declared that anyone who could solve this mystery would marry his daughter and receive half of the kingdom. Half of the kingdom? If you fail, however, you will be banished. Many have tried and all failed. I don't think I can. Take this with you. The old woman produced a white silk fan. When you open this fan, it will make you invisible. Follow the princess wherever she goes. I have conquered the world with this sword, the king declared, putting his hand on the broad scabbard hanging from his belt. Yet, without an heir, I am nothing. Strong spirit ventured a fearful glance up this old, tired-looking man, his gaunt face creased with deep creases, with deep lines. The old man's grave, dark eyes searched the young man's face with a hint of desperation. Strong spirit felt his pain. For the matters of heart, swords are useless, my lord. I was out fighting a war when my wife died, and now my only child. Hide in the outer chamber of her room, the king commanded. Watch her and tell me everything in the morning. At midnight, under the watchful gaze of the cowherd, the princess rose and stirred. As her feet, encased in the bejeweled silken shoes, touched the floor opened without a sound to reveal a spiral marble staircase. The cowherd quickly opened the fan and followed the princess. Down, down, down the stairs they went into the deep, dark hollow of the earth. The princess moved with a surprising agility, her long black hair trailing behind her. Strong spirit lost sight of her at the bottom of the stairs and found himself in a magnificent forest. The sky was aglow with milky light, although he could see neither the sun nor the moon. The leaves of the trees were of green jade and their branches of sterling silver. Suddenly, he heard voices, faint voices off in the distance, of women singing a joyful song. Searching for the source of the voices, he came upon the edge of a large clearing and saw the princess standing in the center. The princess was surrounded by 12 women seated in a circle on the forest floor. Those women, some young, some old, were of every shape and size, wearing such colorful dresses as Strong Spirit had never seen before. Their voices rose and fell as the princess swayed and spun in a radiant bliss, her eyes closed as if in a trance. Then one by one, the 12 women stood and joined her in the center, some whispering mysterious words into the princess's ears, the others chanting and humming all around her until the whole group danced together as if of one breath, one body, one spirit, a jubilant fusion of all voices, colors, and movement. Suddenly, they stopped. The 12 women fell away like flower petals, and there stood the princess looking straight at him. Who are you? The cowherd had been so enchanted by the dance that he had not realized that the fan had closed in his hands. Wait, that's my mother's fan. Where did you get it? Your mother? Strong Spirit said with a sudden realization. Your mother gave this to me. But of course, it belongs to you. The princess took the fan and opened it. But instead of disappearing, her beauty intensified. Would you care to dance with me? She whispered. Powerfully drawn, he stepped closer. One by one, the smiling 12 women disappeared into the forest, but their joyful singing lingered. As the cowherd looked into the princess's luminous smile, he realized he loved her. Have you discovered my daughter's secret? Tell me everything you saw. I'm sorry, my lord, but her secret is not mine to give. If you had just said you didn't know, you would have only been banished. But now you will die. The tip of the king's double-edged sword was a hairbreadth away from the young man's throat. Stop, father, please. Now I am ready to tell you myself. When I was 5 and mother bound my feet, she did not break any bones, but the pain was still so excruciating. I could not sleep at night, but I never complained. The pain bound us, woman to woman. Her pain was my pain, her pain. Mother left me those 12 silken shoes, one pair to be worn each night once I became a woman. Those shoes took me to a magnificent forest underground where I met 12 women. Those women were my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers, my sisters never born, and my future daughters yet to be born. For 12 nights, they told me stories of the earth and the sky, of people and places, of plants and creatures, of the past and the future, as they danced and sang with me. And each night, my feet healed and grew. Now I can run, I can dance. Father, it is time for me to lead a new life outside of this palace and your protection. Absolutely not. I forbid you. I am sorry, Father, that this hurt you, but I must go. My feet are unbound. I am ready to be free. Wait, do you not think I am bound as well by the demand of my station? The princess looked toward the cowherd. Perhaps you would like to stay with my father, she said thoughtfully, to be the heir to the kingdom. Isn't that what you came here for? I came here because your mother sent me to you. I wish to be with you. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. One child, one wish on a star. Never must she be bound like me. Bright star, be true to your power. Let her be safe and free. Once I dreamed that 12 would be, but only one must do. But my heart is truly happy. My shining star is in you.
Magnificent.
Wow, that was
Beautiful.
incredible. Just incredible.
Wow.
Woo.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Wow. Thank you. What a lovely retelling. And that's from a German tale by the Brothers Grimm. So what a lovely, lovely story. Thank you so much, Motoko. Now, what a lovely, lovely evening so far. And we haven't finished. We still have one more storyteller, last but definitely not least. Now, our next storyteller is a physician, an educator, and a storyteller.
This is cool. Oops.
He practices holistic internal medicine in Florida, and he teaches storytelling as healing at the Florida Gulf Coast University. He's president of the Florida Storytelling Association, which just organized the really successful Florida Storytelling Festival, which happened in January. And he performs regularly, teaches workshops, produces events, loves listening to a good story. What doesn't he do? So as you may have just heard, it's Joel Ying, and you can go to joelying.com in order to find out more about him. So let's give a very warm welcome to our virtual stage to Joel Ying. Hi, Joel. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks, Claire.
Excellent. And so are you living over in Florida? Where are you?
Yes, I'm over in Naples, Florida, so Southwest Florida.
And is the weather nice there, or have you got a storm too?
Oh, the weather is fabulous here.
The only time I went to Florida, I got absolutely covered in mosquito bites.
Oh my gosh. Everybody's here right now. We have great weather. I've counted license plates from everywhere.
Very nice indeed. Now, I know you've just said you're a medical physician, but you're also a storyteller. So how have you found balancing those two professions together?
When I first started storytelling, they were very different. I thought, I want to do storytelling. It has nothing to do with anything. But, as I thought about it longer, I realized that as a doctor, I listen to stories and I, digest stories and I collect stories and I, co-create another story for patients. And sometimes these days I will tell them a story because it just feels great.
How nice.
Yeah. And storytelling is healing. So, I feel they're connected.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Absolutely. Well, how nice. What a nice doctor you are for your patients. My doctor doesn't tell me she does tell me stories, not very nice though. So I can see her. So now tell us, Joel, have you got a funny or memorable, disastrous moment from your storytelling career?
You reminded me of a different moment. When I started storytelling, I used to tell in a tea house in the evening, and it was really early, and I was I'm a doctor and I tell stories, but no one really knew I told stories. That's just something I did for fun. So I went on a retreat where they hired me as a doctor, and I was here in Florida. And from across the room, I'm in a completely different context. Someone runs across and goes, "Dr. Storyteller, Dr. Storyteller, you're the storyteller." And I thought, wow, it's the first time I'm a famous storyteller.
Now you're the Dr. Storyteller. Oh, lovely. Well, that's sweet. So now we're all going to be healed by the power of your storytelling. So there's no pressure, Joel. So sit back, everyone, and let's hear Joel tell his story, which is called Lucky the Leprechaun. Welcome, Joel.
Oh, thank you all. I learned so much from all the stories today. From Tim, I learned that content creators cannot be trusted. And from Lynn, I learned, why live in a hovel if you can live in a castle? And from Motoko, I learned the things that bind and unbind us. And I hope you learned something today from my story. Once upon a time, there was a leprechaun named Lucky. Now, Lucky was from the old country, back in Ireland. He had that shocking red hair, gruff beard, bright green outfit, black leather belt, black leather boots, and gold buckles. His mission, to spread hope in the world. He'd hang out at the end of rainbows. He'd wait for people to come by. He'd chat them up and share his gold. But some people had these stereotypes about leprechauns, that they were mean, mischievous, and short. They would run in, knock him over, grab the gold, and run. Well, this kept happening over and over. And Lucky felt judged, abused, misunderstood. And he got more and more depressed and sadder and sadder. And one day, Lucky slid off the end of a rainbow onto a ship headed for America, and he didn't look back. Now, very few people realize there's very little work in this country for leprechauns. The symbols of hope are huge. The Statue of Liberty, Paul Bunyan, Davy Crockett. Next to them, he was short. Well, Lucky decided to go into a related career. He went into finance. He became a bank teller, and it was similar to managing pots of gold. And he did well. But it didn't fulfill his mission, to spread hope in the world. And so Lucky did what many immigrants in this country do. He went back to school and retrained. He went to fairy godmother school. He did well in school. He was good at magic. He graduated. He got a sensible outfit. He got his first case. He was reading the docket. Last name Safut, first name Cindy, middle name Rella, Cinderella Safut. She was an orphan in the foster care system. She lived with her foster mom and 2 foster sisters on a farm, and they made her do all the work. But still, she was kind to everyone and everything. Well, suddenly, in Fairy Godmother Central, on the Hope to Spare meter, Cindy had fallen into despair. The alarm went off, Lucky's phone rang, and he popped over for his first home visit. He found Cinderella on the floor, collapsed in a puddle of tears. "What's the matter? Why are you crying?" Cinderella looked up. "Who are you?" "I'm your fairy godmother." Cinderella blinked away the tears, and Lucky came into focus. That shocking red hair, gruff beard, magic wand, and a light blue fairy godmother dress. It was a leprechaun in drag. "You don't look like a fairy godmother." "Oh, forgot to iron the dress. What's the matter? Why are you crying?" "My foster mom and 2 foster sisters. They went into town for a week and they left me here all alone to take care of the farm. I wanted to go too. I wanted to be in the auditions. I wanted to be on the reality TV show, The Bachelor." "What's that?" "Oh, Lucky, where you been? A reality TV show, like real life on TV." Well, this season, it's a fairy tale wedding theme and everything. There's a prince and a castle, and I wanted to go too. I wanted to go to the auditions. I wanted to fall in love, get married, live happily ever after. Not necessarily in that order. I wanted to go, oh, you're a fairy godmother. That's what you do. You sure don't want a pot of gold? No, I want to fall in love, get married, live happily ever after. Oh. Well, Lucky did what we all do when we try to make magic happen. And you might help me out because he visualized it. Cinderella next to the prince, looking at each other, gazing in each other's eyes, falling deeply in love. And he took his magic wand and he said the magic words, bibbity, bobbity, boom. There was a huge puff of smoke. Cinderella was coughing. What happened? Lucky picked himself up off the ground, looked around, and nothing had happened. I don't know. And then he remembered the #1 rule from Fairy Godmother School. You can change things, but you can't change people. People have to change themselves. What do you need to get to the ball, to the auditions? I need a car and a dress. Well, Lucky looked out into the field and he saw a watermelon. And he said the magic words, and you might want to help me, even though you're on mute, say the words, bibbity, bobbity, boom. BMW convertible, watermelon white, red leather interior, black accents. Oh, Lucky, it's beautiful. And the dress? Help me out. Bibbity, bobbity, boom. Simple, elegant, black cocktail dress. Full makeover. No one would recognize her. And of course, black glass slippers. Oh, Lucky, it's beautiful. She gave Lucky a hug. Lucky blushed. She couldn't see it under the beard. She got into the car, pedaled to the metal. Don't forget to come back before midnight. Magic has its limits. Well, Cinderella didn't come back until 6 p.m. What happened? Where's the prince? Oh, Lucky, great news. I got a red rose. What does that mean? I get to go back tomorrow. It's the ball. Oh. Well, the next morning, Lucky saw an eggplant. Bibbity, bobbity, boom. Mercedes S-Class, eggplant purple, white leather interior. Oh, Lucky, it's beautiful. And the dress? Help me out. Bibbity, bobbity, boom. Lavender ballroom gown, tiara, amethysts, and of course, glass slippers. Oh, Lucky, it's beautiful. Gave Lucky a hug, pedal to the pedal. Don't forget to come back before midnight. Well, this time, Cinderella didn't come back till 10 p.m. What happened? Where's the prince? Oh, Lucky, great news. I got another red rose. What does that mean? I get to go back tomorrow. It's the ballroom dance-off competition. Oh. Well, the next morning, Lucky saw a spaghetti squash. Bibbity, bobbity, boom. Porsche 911. Spaghetti squash exterior, spaghetti sauce interior. Oh, Lucky, it's beautiful. And the dress? Bibbity, bobbity, boom. Red flowing tango dress. And of course, ruby red glass slippers. Oh, Lucky, it's beautiful. Pedal to the metal. Don't forget to come back before midnight. Well, this time, Cinderella didn't come back until 2 a.m. And she was wearing rags and crying and carrying a spaghetti squash. What's the matter? Why are you crying? Oh, Lucky, it was horrible. I'll never fall in love. I'll never get married. There's no hope. What happened? It was the ballroom dance-off competition. The prince and I, we danced the most beautiful tango. The judges gave us all 10s. And then the next rose, she danced the foxtrot. The judges gave her all 10s too. And the next rose, she danced the waltz. The judges gave her all 10. It was a 3-way tie. It was a dead heat. It was going down to a ballroom dance-off club competition. It was me and the prince and the other 2 roses, and we're all dancing center stage, and the disco lights are going, and the audience was raving, and the judges were commenting, and we were going wild. And that's when I heard it. Bong, bong, bong. It was almost midnight. I had to get out of there. I ran so fast, I lost one of my glass slippers. By the time I got back to the car, it was already a spaghetti squash. I had to walk home. I'll never fall in love. I'll never get married. There's no hope. And she collapsed on the ground in a puddle of tears. And back in Fairy Godmother Central on the Hope to Spare meter, Cindy had fallen into an all-time low. It was a 10-alarm siren. Lucky's phone was going off the hook. He was pacing back and forth. He didn't know what to do. You got to get up. You got to get back out there. There's always hope. You got to get back up. He looked out into the field and said the magic word, bibbity, bobbity, boom. It was a whole fleet of cars. You got to get back up. You got to get out there. He looked out in the field and saw the plants. Bibbity, bobbity, boom. A whole wardrobe of dresses. You got to get up. You got to get back out there. You got to get up. There's always hope. He was pacing back and forth. He was pulling out his hair. He didn't know what to do. And then he remembered another rule from Fairy Godmother School. He knelt down next to Cinderella. He gave her a big hug, and her tears became even more convulsive before they settled down. And then he said, Cindy, baby, love is not what you do. Love is who you are. Did you show him who you are? Yes, he loved the cars and the dresses. Did you show him who you are? Yes. Before the ballroom dance-off club competition, we all had a private date with the bachelor. It was just me, the prince, and the cameraman. We talked about our hopes and our dreams, and we really connected. Just at that moment, on the horizon, it looked like a pumpkin coming towards them. It was a bright orange Maserati. Out hopped the prince, carrying a glass slipper. He went over to Cinderella and said, someone I love very much lost this shoe. If the shoe fits, wear it. I love you, said she, but you really need better lines from the screenwriters. I love you, said he, but you really need magic that lasts longer. Will you marry me? Yes, said she, and they embraced. Lucky watched with tears in his eyes as he's brought this young couple together. It was his first case, and it was a Cinderella success story. He went over to the prince and said, where'd you get the pumpkin Maserati? From my fairy godfather, of course. What's a fairy godfather? Well, Lucky did retrain. He got a more sensible outfit. He became an actor. He got cast in commercials. And he convinced a whole generation of children to eat their breakfast because it was magically delicious. He became a huge symbol of hope to mothers across the globe. Well, he's retired now. He lives in Naples, Florida. That's how I get this story. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, he'll go down to his spare bedroom closet. He'll take out that magic wand, and he'll put on that light blue fairy godmother dress. And he'll teach night classes at Fairy Godmother School. Perhaps you are practicing to be a fairy godmother too. Remember the number one rule. You can change things, but you can't change people. People have to change themselves. Bibbity, bobbity, boom! The end.
Woo, fabulous. So good.
Jill, that was so good. I love it. Who doesn't love a leprechaun in drag, eh? Such such a brilliant story. Well done. Love it, love it, love it, love it. What a fantastic way to end the show. Well done. And thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody on YouTube. Now, let's just, before we go, we want to bring back all our storytellers and say thank you and find out what they're up to. So first of all, let's bring back Tim Araneta. Tim, thank you so much. And lovely, lovely to have you on our show. Brilliant story. Tell us, what have you got coming up?
Nothing storytelling wise coming up yet, but you can always check in on my website, timaraneta.com, to find out where I'll be telling next.
And storyteller_Tim, go to his Instagram, follow him, make him an absolute viral mask wearing maniac. Thank you, Tim. Okay, let's bring back on Lynn Ford. Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Where are you? Where have you gone? You're going to come back any moment, I'm sure. Our tech guru will get you. There you are. There you are. Like a little bit of bibbity bobbity boom, I should have said, shouldn't I?
It's the boom that gets it.
Yes. Thank you, Lynn. Now, what have you got coming up? I know you've got some things coming up that I know about.
Oh, yes, definitely. You and I both. I'm going to be a part of the Women's Storytelling Festival, the 3rd annual festival in Fairfax, Virginia. It will be in person and live streamed March 18th through 20th.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Lynn. And then let's bring up Motoko. Hopefully, bibbity, bobbity, boom. There we are. My magic.
Great.
Now, what have you got coming up?
For the next several months, I'll be running around all over New England visiting schools. Now, schools are open. I'm doing a lot of residencies, helping children create their own stories.
Brilliant. Well, how lovely to be actually back in person then, running around schools, picking up all the lovely germs. And I don't mean COVID, I just mean general germs. Well, good luck. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. And then our final storyteller, Joel Ying. Let's bibbity bobbity boom him back on. Hi, Joel. And what have you got coming up?
Tomorrow I'm at the main library in Fort Lauderdale, if anyone's local, but I am producing some events with other storytellers at Florida Gulf Coast University at fgcustorytelling.com. You'll find it there. And there's some brilliant, lovely programs that you can live stream into as well. And then, of course, there is the Florida Storytelling Festival in January. I know it's a long way off, but plan ahead. Come on down, January 26th or 29th, 2023.
Brilliant. And that's all on joelying.com, is it? They'll be able to find that there? Yeah. Excellent. Great. Now, and I also like to bring, I finally have to, allow her onto the stage as well, is my co-producer, Regina Stoops. Where is she? Where is she? There she is.
But finally, get let into the room. Oh my gosh, those were all such great stories. I want to see the reality TV show with Lucky the Leprechaun. That's a whole different version of the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise, but I see it coming. It's going to be great. So, hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have upcoming. We've got a lot of stuff coming up for 6 Feet Apart Productions. And the first up is, speaking of luck, look at that. Open mic. What a segue. Open mic story slam. The theme is luck, March 9th. And we only have one more storyteller spot available. Plenty of room in the audience. Come on out and watch a great show. We're going to have 10 storytellers telling stories on the theme of luck. Joel, you got one already. And next up, after our lucky week, of course, the Women's Storytelling Festival, as Lynn talked about, and that is March 18th, as she said, through the 20th, Fairfax, Virginia, or you can stream it on YouTube. So it's going to be a great festival. It always ends a weekend of stories by women, for women, about everything. And that's from Better Said Than Done. They always produce a great festival. So be sure to tune in and find out what that's all about. It Better Said Than Done. And next up, we're very excited that after a hiatus of a few years, we are bringing back the Bay Area Storytelling Festival. And yeah, I know, yay! And it's also going to be live and virtual. So more about that on our website, sfapshows.com, also on the Storytelling Association of California website. Google it, it's all over, and we're very excited. And we hope to see some of you local folks there and others tune in virtually. It's going to be a great time. Yeah, that's it, huh? Oh, Patreon. What's that? That's a membership service. For as little as $5 a month, you can get free tickets to the show, some swag, and other perks and benefits. It's a way to help subsidize what we do here, support our storytellers and the art of storytelling. So you can find out more about that at Patreon, and a link is on our website as well. So thank you to those that are already patrons and those that would consider it. And I'll turn it back to Claire to lead us out of here. But again, thank you to all those storytellers. What a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Yeah, totally agree. Also want to thank our very clever tech guru, without whom we wouldn't have all these lovely special things that go on. But Jim and I would have to get a bit more techie, and we certainly don't want that. And thank you to everybody watching on YouTube. Thank you for your lovely comments. We'll definitely go back and read all those. Now we're going to stay and have a little bit of an after party with our backstage crew. Thank you, everybody, for watching on YouTube. Hope to see you on our next show. And definitely check out the Bay Area Storytelling Festival. We want to see you in person. We want to give hugs. Come along. And thank you very much. And thank you to all our storytellers. And let's say goodbye and bring all our backstage audience. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Good night.
6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.